Hello, everyone. Hello, hello, hello. Me, Joseph Landsberg again. Today, some people asked me to do a live reading of my second book. So you're going to get one. Chapter 1, Brian the Corpse Last Break. It's available at lawrencebookstore.com, Amazon. If you want it in Barnes & Nobles, demand it from them, okay? Brian the Corpse Last Break. Written by me in 2023. At least it was published in case. Chapter 1. A news van pulls up in front of a Victorian-era house at the edge of a western New York small town. The occupants seem cautious of their surroundings, yet confirm they are in the right place. A reporter and her team, a cameraman and a producer, step out, and each gives a little bit of a stretch, as people do after being on the road for a few hours, Walking to the front steps, the reporter speaks to her producer. Doug, are you sure we are in the right place? I have not been to this part of New York. He responds, Yes, Carol, this is where the bosses in NYC said this guy will be. She looks at her cameraman. Fred, is there anything interesting about this place before we go in? Fred looks at his smartphone, responds, It's 70 degrees, air pressure is rising, we are 1,200 feet above sea level, and there's a festival at one of the parks not too far from here. And there's a sale on Amazon. Smart ass, she rebukes. The small group walks onto the porch. Carol knocks and then notices a doorbell and promptly rings it. From the inside, they hear the voice of a man. I'll be right there. The door is opened by a tall man in his mid-40s, early 50s, graying a little, but having a pleasant personality. Welcome. You must be from the news that called the other day. I've been expecting you. Carol answers, as nicely as she can. Yes, we are. And this is my team, Doug, the producer, and Fred, my cameraman and tech guy. I am Emmett Johnson. Welcome and come in. Make yourselves comfortable. Where would you like to do this interview thing? Carol and her team step into the house and take their first glimpse around. Their host speaks. Let me introduce you to my household. This is a dining room. Over there's the living room. The kitchen is through the left, and there's a bathroom through the door at the end of the kitchen if you need it. Thanks, responds Doug with relief in his voice, and promptly goes in that direction. Would you like a snack or something to drink before we get started? I've made some snacks here and some mint tea, a little lemonade too. So, what would you like to do? I'll have some tea, Carol responds. Drops. Fred helps himself to some chips and crackers and takes some tea, nodding approvingly to his host. It's good stuff. Carol takes a sip of mint tea. It's the best thing she's had in years. That's good. I've had mint tea in years. Can I have some more? And we can sit on the front porch and do the interview there if you like. It is a nice day. Emmett smiles. Yes, we can. The three take their seats, facing Emmett. The three take seats, facing Emmett and some comfy porch chairs. Before Emmett sits down, he sets a pitcher of tea on the table before the chairs. Fred sets his camera up and sets up the microphones. Carol sets up her personal recording device. Doug calls the office and reports in their whereabouts. As her host takes his seat, yes, so, where would you like to begin? And how much do you want to know? There's much detail if you want. For the more, the longer, Carol being the reporter, responds. There has been so much conjecture and supposition on the events surrounding this case. I would like to know as much as I can. But first, what was your relationship with Brian O'Cork, and what led you to coming to be the most knowledgeable about what happened in regarding to him? Emmett sits back and smiles. Well, it's like this. We were best friends. We went through grade school together, high school together, and the friendship made friendship as adults. A rare thing these days. It seems maintaining long-term friendships is a difficult thing. We earned each other's trust, even working together at one point. He wasn't gay or anything, neither am I, but we had a bond like brothers. Though I was mostly a witness to the things going down in his life. He'd helped me out numerous times in hard spots in my life. What was Brian like when he was a kid, and how did he get into pranks? Carol asked. Well, I'll tell you. This is going to take some time, though, replies Emmett. It's okay. It is why I'm here, affirms Carol. Emmett begins and nods. It was the summer of 1987 when I first met him. I was 13, he was 11. Only 2 years apart. 22-year difference isn't much. My previous best friend had moved away and had no one to hang out with. So to get me out of the house, my mother had me meet some friends of the family who lived a few blocks away, the O'Corks. They had a forest, a creek, and a railroad yard nearby. It was a marvelous place to hang out being a boy. We were both kind of quiet kids at the kayak. We were both quiet kind of kids. But we had similar interests, so it made so we quickly bonded. I was more of an engineer. He was more of a doer with thought. I'd say. Let's build a dam in the creek. Let's make a cool off spot. Let's put it in this spot. He'd say, let's make a fire pit, and I'd say we can put it in a certain spot so we don't burn down the woods and keep it from getting flooded when in wet times. And so it would happen. It was about this time he started showing a sense of thought. One day we got out of school. It was a hot September day, and we'd made a small dam in the creek to cool off. Well, we were there wrecking it, pulling stones off it, throwing them into the pool part. To say the least, we were pissed. Harsh words exchanged, tempers were high. Yet he noticed the other kids were trying to keep dry. So he picked up a reasonable sized flat stone and says to a teenage girl that seemed to be in charge of these invaders, get off my land or I'll do something. He said, you hit me with that rock and you'll be in trouble. So instead of throwing the rock at her, he throws it in the water in such a way that makes a splash that hits all the kids. They didn't take it, and they didn't take it. Ran home. The teenage girl tried to chase Brian, but he didn't likely to kick his ass, but he was faster than her and got away. They did not come back. It also came about that time that he became aware of TV shows like Candid Camera, and TV bloopers, and practical jokes. And Brian really took to those prank shows. And he also liked MacGyver and shows of practical innovations to do things. He would try and make stuff he saw done on TV to see if it was real and doable. And like a Mythbuster, but years before that show, and it wasn't long after this time he began his own pranks. Back to present. What were his first pranks like, and on whom? Asked Carol. Emmett takes a sip of tea and thinks, and responds. His first ones were on his sister and my sisters. They were rather simple things that boys do to sisters, like cups of water on doors, paper confetti flings, or soap up a shampoo bottle so you can't pick it up. Harmless stuff. Oh, he almost got in trouble when he put aftershave in a squirt gun that my sister and her friends had used without his permission. So he decided to make them pay for it in the next use. It really led him developing pranks later as he became known as the summer of '89. What happened? Inquired Carol. Well, in the summer of 1989, he built a fire pit in the woods in Creek area. It was nice too. It had some stone ring and had lined the inside of it with railroad tie plates. It's because a year or two before, discovered that tires burn accidentally and be difficult. See, our first fire pit was at the center of a tire had FU written on the side of it, spray painted. And we burned it regularly, dig out the ash, make a pit. And then one day it caught on fire. But luckily there was creek water there and we disposed of the tire. Just made the pit bigger. The ground was very unstable after each fire, so we got the idea to line up tie plates. This has not only worked, but worked so well that we lost most people burning a tire in the conditions it was in when it was called for. Like during a snowstorm in the winter or at night when no one's looking, back to point. I'm just rambling here. In the summer of '89, another group of kids came around, and they weren't there to be nice. They would smash benches we'd built, kicking stones into the fire pit, which is dangerous because rocks explode when in fire. And they melted the stainless steel cover we had gotten to keep the pit dry. And after about the fourth time cleaning up this mess, Brian was really pissed. So he decided defenses must be devised for the spot. I just wanted to hide everything and keep the breakable stuff to a minimum. But he goes, I want something to leave an impression so they come back. I said, well, what can we do? We can't. You can't hurt people bad. You would get in trouble. It's not like we can do do a prank to get results. And he goes, that's a good idea. That's a very good idea. Yeah, he's doing this. I know what. I go, what can they do? He walks around to our ash pile. He walks around to the ash pile from previous burnings and kicks out some tire wire. He carefully found the end of it and turns to me. We can wire the place, so it's very difficult to get into this place. Remember when we got this stuff and got into the stuff and it made a mess in our clothes? You wrecked your bike on account of this stuff too? Yes, I do. My mom was not happy about it, I said. He goes, tomorrow we get down here early and string this wire along the main paths that those jerks use. Then we will see who laughs. I agreed to help him. And the next day, we did as we said. We string the wire at the access points. He did several stringings. One was near some power poles. It's about chest high on a bicycle rider, and then some others just above tire level. Then we put other wire that would be about bike chain height. When we were done, we went down to the local store, bought some penny candy and chocolate milk. This is back when this, then went back to the spot to watch what happened. And just as we finished our quarts of quick, the kids came in fast and reckless as usual. Before they knew it, they hit the first wire, and two of them were knocked off clean off their bikes. Then another hit another wire, and went slow and weird over his handlebars. That slowed them down a lot. The ones that hit the ground were okay. It stunned a little, but they were okay. Arguing with each other for a moment, and cursing, of course, kept going. They then quickly hit the lower wires, and the sound of bike chains drilling could be heard. Following more cursing, found by more cursing this. They were also they that were so cocky just moments before left in shame and slowness. I can't believe that worked, I said. Brian goes, like he has had an epiphany. I like this. I like this result bearing prank thing. If I, yeah, he had a good laugh on it. If he can do things for us, I wonder what we can do for others. Later, we did see those kids at school. We knew who they were for the marks on their clothing and from their bikes. But they never came back to our woods again. Back to prison. So that was the beginning of his pranks. Surely it must have been more than that from his youth. From what I've independently verified, he had a certain style that one doesn't get from one-time activity. Can you tell me more about some of his high school years? Asked Gerald. Emmett nods. Yes, I can. I witnessed more than one of his pranks bear out for results that he wanted. Flashback. In high school, he was almost a liberal. He liked Earth Day, environmental stuff, issues of having well-lit areas for people to walk at night. He had a bike, not a car, and so forth. Anyhow, there was a side street along a hill. Not far up the hill was another road, along which people would dump their old tires and trash. And one day we were collecting cans for money along the upper road. The downhill edge was such a mess that Brian got annoyed with it. The next day, he convinced 3 other kids to join him for a prank on the town. Just after school, we met up along the upper road. Being early April, it's just after the snow thaw, you could see through the woods to the lower road. Brian takes an old tire and says, "Check this out." And with a mischievous look on his face, he rolls it down the hill. It goes down, crashes through the woods, hits the road, bounces off the guardrail on the opposite side of the road, and lands in the river. The other kids go, "Wow, cool. Maybe we gotta try that." So they started taking tires and then lining up some sort of redneck bowling team. They started rolling tires downhill. Some tires would go all the way, like the first one had. Some would hit the guardrail with a metallic bam. Some would hit, and then some cars were going by the lower road. Some of the others released more tires. One car hit the brakes as the tire went in front of them. Another car took a hit in the side with a loud thump and stopped immediately. No damage was done, but the driver was clearly pissed. We all hightailed it out of there. The next day, we found out at school that it was the superintendent's car that had took the hit. The other car was a truant officer's car. There was a speech in the morning intercom about the incident, wanting answers and tips, but no one came forth. Something should be done about the trash along the upper road. That's what the bit came out of this. The town should allow for people to get rid of their old tires in an easier way than the practice of the times. The authorities agreed, and it was kids doing a prank, and decided to make sure it didn't happen again. Within a week, the edge of the upper road was cleaned. The local junkyard started taking tires with a tire amnesty day every few weeks. It's a good idea. When things settled down, Brian smiled. I got what I wanted. I got them to clean up that road. Now, the next prank that bore results was a few months later in the summer. The next one was at a local bridge. It came about because of something that happened to his sister and a few other people in that area. Now, at the scene, the city had put streetlights about 3/4 of the length of the street, but for 1,000 feet on each side of the bridge, there was nothing. At night, it made a black void in that stretch of the road. It was really intense. Anyway, well, that summer, some rough individuals had begun harassing people that were on foot going over that bridge. Among those harassed was his sister, Brian's sister, and her friends. The police took a report, but nothing happened. As there was no light there to identify anyone, the matter legally was dropped. And Brian took it personally. Trust me, you don't want to piss him off. He sought a way to get lights put up in that area. And at that time, he'd been studying Vietnam War and came across traps the VC would make involving tripwires. He also happened to meet up with some old folks who grew up in the 30s. And they told him of a trick that used pranks. They did pranks in their time. And Bryant took what he had learned from both eras and came up with something rather unique and involved light bulbs and fishing line. Back to present. So was it something dangerous or destructive? Asked Carol. And did anyone get hurt? Emmett smiles. I'm getting to. You see, he never actually wanted to hurt anyone. Just got a little attention on an issue. Get a little attention shown on an issue. And so he did. And this was before CFLs, so the light bulbs used still at that time still had a lot of pop when it's broken. Flashback. Now, he was a night owl at the time, he would stay up sometimes at 3 or 4 a.m. And he would time police patrols in any given street. Notice the patterns of different gangs and how they move. It wasn't long before he came to me and said, let's have some fun tonight. And we had a fire at the fire pit, had some chips, and then at 2 a.m. went to the bridge. The dark provided cover for what we did. He took the lead and tied 2 light bulbs to some fishing line and had me hold them on one side of the bridge or over the railing. When he went to the other side and tied them to the other railing. And they were just hanging there. It's like one side's tied, the other side's loose. In any case, we hid in some trees within earshot of the bridge, and it wasn't before long before some guy in a truck came whipping down the road, and he'd hit the line and pow, pow. He nailed him good. He stopped, got out, cursed. The guy was obviously drunk, but still could curse well. There's no damage, but still scared the crap out of the guy. To say the least, we did it again the following week. A vehicle going the other direction. This one was sober, got out, cursed this guy. And then he went down to below to complain to the police. Something was mentioned in the newspapers the next day, not radio. But nothing happened really. 2 weeks go by. And by this time, some of our friends had decided to join us because the prank sounded cool to them. And so we did another one with an additional light bulb. Now the next week, that kid, the other kid, he wanted to try to trick himself. But he wasn't as skilled or stealthy as Brian was. The other kid used a jar and a white string, which of course would be seen by the vehicle that hit it. Still too late, stop. But Brian didn't do anything on this, but observed. When the prank was done, Brian said, well, that was excessive. I agreed, and the other kid and his friends went on to do it again a few weeks later. We weren't there, but we heard about it. And this time, the other kids went on to do it again a few weeks later. Had a car belonging to one of the town board members with a glass juice bottle. I only heard about it, and Brian, at this point, even though he wasn't involved with the most recent prank, went to a common council meeting and made the point in the public comments portion of the meeting like he was one of those who had hit one of the string bulbs. Other people in the minutes agreed and backed up what he was saying, that it happened to them too. And they suggested putting lights up on the bridge. And so it happened. But Brian got what he wanted. Lights put up on a bridge, and it did reduce the crime in that area. Like I say, you could get results. Back to present. It seems a little over the top to get a simple problem resolved with a municipality, states Carol. Looking back, I have to agree, states Emmett. I don't always agree with his methods, but however, one cannot beat the results. Anyway, it wasn't long before he went into the Navy. So, well, how was his Navy time? And responds, this quick response, I don't know. I don't know too much about what happened to him there. All I do know he was proud to serve, yet hated where he was while he was there. He got an honorable discharge. I never know how, but what I do know is he came back with more focus. He had a car and more purpose in what he did. How so? Well, Emmett proceeds. Well, he purchased stock in a railroad and a few other businesses. When the world did not end in 2000 from rising oceans and global warming and World War III, he changed his political ideology, going more conservative. He became more focused about making the world a better place. He even did a prank or one or two. He was a prank on the railroad he was invested in to get their attention on a problem he got sick of looking at. What he did to them? Asked Carol. He got them to care about their property and how their property looked. And with only two simple acts, states Emmett. Please go on, insists Carol. Flashback. In our town, there's an abandoned railroad yard, a remnant of a once prosperous industry. Here, people would dump all sorts of junk and trash. On one side of the yard was mostly general junk. The other side was like an appliance dump, and Brian got sick of looking at it. He tried writing letters to the management of the company to clean the place up. Well, he got back with standard form letters and rejection letters. And one weekend, he said to me, Emmett, I want you to help me do something to get these people off their ass. What are you going to do? I followed him down to the yards. Then arriving at the far end from town, he walks over to a pile of junk and pulls out an old kitchen-type chair and set it between the gauge of the tracks. And then he fashioned a dummy out of some discarded clothes and a beer ball for a head. Back when they had beer balls, it's a thing modern kids don't understand. And he sets it on the chair. And it was dusk when we did this, so it was when he had done this. He started walking home along the old access road, and he heard a train horn in the distance. And he had on his handheld scanner. He turns it on and says, this will get some attention. The train was doing about 50 when it came into sight. Now back to reality, kids. Don't do this. It's really, really stupid. It's really cruel to engine crews, I said. The train blew its horn over and over, hit the brakes, went into dynamic braking. And just before hitting the dummy, they realized it was a gag. There was some language over the radio that day. The priest went down and made a report. Still, eventually, Brian got what he wanted. They cleaned up that side of the railroad yard. Only the appliance side remained. It wasn't long before he got that dealt with. What happened there? Asked Carol. Well, Brian was hanging out with a former railroad worker who was also tired of looking at, seeing junk-like appliances. The one evening in the dark of the night, they put an abandoned refrigerator on the tracks. This time the train didn't blow its whistle, but it hit the old fridge with a loud bam. It stopped, of course. Brian and the old guy were hiding nearby and hear the crew cursing up a storm. And within a few weeks of that incident, the dumped appliances were gone. Back to present. Now we're getting current times, right? Asked Carol. Emmett nods. Yes. Is there anything else you want before I continue? I am fine, answers Carol. Suffice to say, Brian became a pretty good guy at getting things done. His day jobs and later his YouTube prank show, he did well. I'd say it was so, responds Carol. So when did things start or get set up for what happened to Brian? End chapter 1. Hope you like this. People want me to do this one for a while, so here it is. I will do more of the Gesture Prince now. Read all these things online. Some of them you are going to have to buy to find out the endings. Okay. End stream.